What's up, Amazon sellers? Today, I am super excited to be able to bring you Chris, aka Gravy on Twitter, and I'm super excited to share about his Amazon arbitrage journey in the UK. And the one thing I really love about him is he is super transparent about his numbers, and also as well, he is on the journey to 1 million right now, so close. And this is a man after my own heart, having been through the same journey as him. Stay tuned. I can't wait to share all in this video today. Right, so today I'm here with none other than Chris, or aka Gravy on Twitter, and the reason why I love this guy is the fact that he is really transparent. He talks about the targets he wants to achieve each month, and you know what? He also talks about when he fails, or should we say he doesn't achieve them. Should we say, I love the fact that he shares not only his revenue figures, but also he talks about his profitability and his ROI, which I think is really inspirational. Why? Because it allows us to see what other sellers are doing, big sellers are doing, and also as well, as Amazon sellers, we can relate to his journey. And hey, sometimes it isn't all roses, and I love Chris for this. So Chris, thank you so much for joining me. And I just want to ask, if no one knows who you are, tell us a little about who you are and the journey so far to where we are today.
Thank you, Tom, for that introduction. It's very nice, especially like you're saying that you love me. So that's very early on to say that. But yeah, so my name's Chris. I'm on Twitter as GravyFI. So I'm a seller on Amazon who's moved from online arbitrage to wholesale in the last 18 months or so, and I'm on track for 1.2 million probably this calendar year. So yeah, the target was 1 million. Like, there was a road to 1 million target set at the start of the year, and I was doing 30k, 40k months. So it's quite a stretch target, and I should be hitting that in the next month or so. So I've moved mainly over to wholesale now. Probably about 78% of my purchases are through suppliers direct or through distributors for suppliers. And I'm quite happy with that business model because it gives me the ability to scale beyond 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, etc. So yeah, that's my reselling, and I have a Discord group that helps other people resell as well. I'm sure you'll talk about that more.
And if anyone's interested, I'll drop that down below. So honestly, thank you so much. I think, look, first question for you is, let's just talk about the first bit. So I do online arbitrage, and obviously you now do 20% of it, but it's decreasing. Tell me about that. Why did you make that change from online arbitrage into wholesale?
A big thing, Tom, is online arbitrage can have some great returns. ROI can be really great, especially if you're non-VAT registered. If you're a non-VAT registered seller, it's fantastic. But as a VAT registered seller, the more I did OA, the more I found myself up against people that could accept a lot lower selling price because they're non-VAT registered. So you're competing with people that have got a massive advantage over you on that side of things, and also how wide you have to go with OA in order to hit a certain turnover level is a bit of a concern for me with your ability to scale, because running a virtual assistant service provider, that there's lots and lots of people in the OA space that rely on virtual assistants to find them new deals all the time, and order limits is a big problem you get with OA. Like, websites put order limits on nearly all people that are buying from them, and ultimately I want to be buying from suppliers who want to sell to me. And with OA, the suppliers generally don't want to sell to you because they want to sell to consumers, not retailers. It's scalable, OA, but I don't think it's a long-term scalable business model like wholesale will be.
Interesting. No, I can understand. I think, looking at my business, when we got to the million, we thought, I realized, like, is that it? Can I do 1 million? Can I do more? So we're doing 3.5 now. But obviously, I see, like, the Americas, like Amazon Lit, they're doing 60 million now, I think it is. So definitely, I think when you're buying a lot, that wholesale side, you can obviously do a lot more. But I really understand. Question for you. You talked about width, the breadth of purchases. Right now, you are, what can I ask, 12 months of revenue? I know you share it on Instagram, but like, roughly where are you versus the million target? Like, you said you're 1.2 target, but where are you actually year to date, or last 12 months, should we say?
Well, 12 months, Tom, I'm on 972, I believe, to date. But the target was calendar year, and I must be on 900 already for the calendar year. It's very close anyway, so I should think in the next 2 or 3 weeks I'll be there for the £1 million for the calendar year. So hence why I expect 1.2 at least for this calendar year, doing mainly wholesale.
First thing to you, well done. And also, I've looked at your graph on Twitter, and it's just like up, and then you're pretty much about 110, 120, I think it is per month. Don't quote me on that one. But like, obviously, really good results. So definitely you're going to hit it, no problem. But I'm really interested in like breadth. So you talked about like buying, like you were doing like right now you're doing 120,000 a month, roughly 120,000. Can I ask, like, how many SKUs do you roughly have? Do you know that answer? Because I'm interested in breadth. You mentioned that.
Yeah, it's not a huge amount. I run a lot of metrics on average profit per ASIN and turnover per ASIN, lots of things like that. But it's not huge. It's something like 250, so it's not massive at all. I've got one source in virtual assistant. That's it.
Fantastic. It's really interesting because obviously we do like 3 times that, so at 3.5, and I think we have about 1,000. So like we're kind of like similar metrics, which is interesting.
Probably.
When you were doing OA, and you said also you were doing about 30,000. Do you remember how many ASINs you had then?
Oh blimey! Now you're asking.
Honestly, I'm not going to hold you accountable to it. I'm just asking if you can remember.
It's probably a hell of a lot less. I think my average selling price was a lot higher when I was doing around 30k, 40k a month, because you could buy 10 of something that's a really high selling price, and it would really take up a big percentage of that monthly sale. So the average selling price is probably around 30 to 40 pounds per item, which I think is substantially higher than a lot of people doing wholesale, and probably a lot of people doing OA, because people like the lower cost the item is for consumers, the more likely it's going to sell more a month, as we know. So I probably have fewer SKUs and ASINs because my average selling price is a lot higher as well. I think that makes quite a difference, but it also means less sourcing is required if your average selling price is higher.
Fantastic. No, honestly, thank you. And I think to me the question which I'm trying to ask is because if people are considering that transition from OA into wholesale and they're taking your considerations in, and I really understand the point. My God, we have it. Cancelled orders is one of the metrics we track, and I really get the point. Like, I want to buy from people who want to sell to me, and I really understand that at a fundamental level. But also, you talk about breadth, so like 250 on million coming down. But I think also the average selling price. I think you're right. When I look at wholesalers, they have a lower average selling price but higher volume, and then OA generally, because you're trying to increase spend. So if you increase average selling price, you increase spend. It's a very common trait, which I understand. But also as well, I think our average selling price is like 28. Don't quote me, 28, 25.
That's quite high.
Yeah, but obviously if you go in the US, it's like 70, 80, much, much higher. Wow. So, we're like, spend the money. So thank you for that. And also you mentioned, so like the operation right now, you're doing $1 million and nearly, let's call it $1 million because you're borderline there. You've got what, full-time sourcing VA, part-time VA? What's the kind of operations look like? Do you have prep center? Do you prep yourself? Tell me about that.
Okay, so in terms of just on the Amazon business, I've got one sourcing VA who purely sources wholesale. So I strike up a relationship with a supplier. I analyze initially what they're selling, etc., and then I hand them over. So they tend to have a number of suppliers that they get the daily spreadsheets from, daily offers, daily deals, and they will actually look over them, and then they'll make a decision on what we're going to purchase. That person doesn't actually make the bank transfers or spend the money on the card. I do all that still, but they're the ones saying this is a good deal, this is how many we want to purchase. So they're kind of like a purchasing manager, but without the entering the bank details, So that's a full-time person, and they don't have deal targets. At the end of the day, it's my relationships that they're working from, so they can only kind of work off what I've got. Prep center wise, we do have a prep center. I won't mention who it is because I don't think they need extra business at all. They're really great, they are, because they actually store stock for me as well, rather than focus on lot prep centers say, it needs to go straight out as soon as it comes in, because obviously their space is money. But this prep center, they let me store items on pallets, and they charge me a monthly fee per unit, which is quite good. They also fulfill FBM orders for me if I've got some larger items I don't want to send into Amazon, which is really good of them. And if I want to move into like the seller fulfill prime side of things, and I don't want to get my own warehouse, then they will offer that service as well. So it's really important as you scale to have a really strong relationship with any 3PL solutions that you got, like a prep center, in my opinion. Could go down the warehouse route, but it's a lifestyle decision, I think. Why?
Tell me that. Like, obviously we talked about this off camera, but like, why are you not? Because like everyone who does wholesale is like, man, you need a warehouse because obviously it's more efficient. I understand that, but why are you not? So you're doing $1 million without a warehouse, a prep center. People are saying, don't do it. It's really bad. You're going to lose all your money. But why are you not?
I did run the numbers, Tom. I went to see a couple of units that were available for lease, long-term lease, and I looked at the costs, the business rates, etc., ploughed it all into spreadsheets. And the benefit I found was quite minimal at my level. I think when I'm pushing towards 2 million, 3 million, it might work out more beneficial. So the employee's wages you're going to need to do the prep for you, for example. Obviously, we're paying UK wages and not Filipino or Pakistani wages here. So that's going to take up a big monthly cost. When I feel like I have enough units going out each day for one person to do full time, it'd probably make more sense. But I don't think that'd be the case right now. So it'd probably be a part-time wage. And it's the other thing, like if for the savings that there were, what impact does it have on my life negatively, having my own warehouse facility and a liability there? I'm going to have to be there most days. I'm going to have to be worrying about security. I'm going to be worrying about actually checking in and receiving all deliveries. It's something I don't really want right now. I want the flexibility to say, okay, if I want to go away for 2 days, 3 days somewhere in Europe or in the UK, I can take my laptop and my business continues working without me actually physically being in the UK. So yeah, at the minute, I'm not looking to outsource that. If there was huge savings right now, I would, but at the minute, I'm not looking to.
Yeah, I can really understand. I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people, and especially see it on like social media, it's like I'm getting the warehouse and doing it. And I've even had conversations with people who've booked coaching calls with me in the fact that like I've got this. They booked they kind of do what they call like a storage place, and when we do the calculations, we worked out they were just per unit shipped per month. They were paying more in storage fees in the storage center than they would have done if they shipped it to a prep center, and that's not including their own labor costs plus all the boxes and everything else. And it's like, oh my god! And then not only that, like people talk to me about it, like they're like, should I do EFN? Should I do eBay? And like my kind of thoughts are like, your job is to make this business as simple as possible, and the more elements you have, like managing staff, prep center, or should I say warehouse, utility rates, break-ins, the guy hasn't turned up for work, he's not doing it to the right standard, he's a bit slacky, now I've got to find someone else, like just more and more problems. And it's like there's a reason why we use FBA, because it solves a massive problem. Exactly. And it's like, FBA is the same as like a prep center. It's just like we give it to them. If someone's off sick or not standard, it's not our problem. We tell them to fix it, or we'll go somewhere else. And I'm like, okay, we'll fix it. And it makes our lives so much easier. And we can do that with like 2 emails. Like, wow. I think it's amazing the time we live in. Before we jumped on the call, you were reading a book. What was it, and how has it influenced your thought process? Because I think this is relevant to this topic.
You say I was reading the book. I referenced the book. I wasn't physically sitting there reading it before we got on the call. So that makes you seem like a right dweeb. The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, very famous book that New York Times bestseller or wherever it was for years and years. Yeah, so a couple of things in there that really kind of hit home to me about what happiness is. I mean, this could go really deep, but basically looking at life and thinking, what is happiness? And he says he believes happiness to be excitement, and having lots of excitement in life, whether that's with family or whether that's with friends, whatever it is creating excitement for yourself. And I quite like the idea of creating a lifestyle where you can go and have excitement. You can book like something now for in a week's time, go and do something for 2 or 3 days. That's quite exciting for you. Go away with friends and just create lots of little experiences. It doesn't need to be 1 big holiday a year or 2 big holidays a year. It's just about making yourself happy multiple times throughout the year and throughout your life. It doesn't need to be a big thing of working towards retirement, work your ass off when you're in 30s, 40s, 50s, some of the 60s, and then enjoy yourself and have happiness at retirement. We can do it now, and you kind of agreed you can have happiness and excitement now and create memories now. And building a flexible work lifestyle is crucial to enable you to do that, in my opinion. So that's why I try to outsource as much as I can at the moment. It might change in a year's time. My mindset might change, but yeah, it really sort of I can really sort of relate to what he says there.
Yeah, I think if I just kind of add to that, like obviously I've looked at your revenue graph on Twitter. About a year ago, you were doing 30,000 a month. Now you're doing about 110, 120. So, now, the one thing which I'll say is 30,000 a month is still good revenue, but the lifestyle choices you have at 30,000 a month are very different to what you have at 120,000 a month. There's a lot of other perks, and we've talked about it, like cashback points, for example, or like Marriott points. We talked about it off air. And I think what's really interesting is like your business has changed dramatically over the last 12 months. And what's very interesting is in just the space of 12 months, all of a sudden options which probably weren't a consideration 12 months ago are now like, wow, I could actually do this. And if you continue that rate of growth, it's now going to become like, this is just the norm. Like, I just go travel. Like, I think you went to Barcelona recently, you should grab the laptop and again, creating experiences, creating a life. And I think that's amazing. I think it's amazing about the world that we live in nowadays and the opportunity that Amazon creates for us.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Tom. And you also realise that enjoyment isn't only allowed at the weekends. There's 7 days in a week, and you can go for the Tuesday to Friday somewhere, and you can still come back and play with your football teams on the Saturday or the Sunday, and see friends that have been working all week in their 9-to-5 jobs. Nothing wrong with that, but it just opens the world up to you a bit, and you get the ability to connect with other people doing similar things as well. So there's a lot of these digital nomads out there, and there's a couple of people in Barcelona that we both know mutually through Twitter that we've both met recently. Real nice guys. But there's lots of other places in the world that you'll never even consider visiting, that you could actually even go and live in for a few months and run a business like this, which is quite attractive. And you've obviously made a lifestyle decision to move to one of those places. Yeah, it's just amazing the opportunities, and sometimes it's just a bit mind-blowing how many opportunities you got. But the reality of it is you need to have a lifestyle here where it suits, that you could just pick it up and move it. Like if you're married with children in the UK, it's going to be tough for you to just pick everybody up. So you've got to really think about that. I think it suits people mainly who've got that more of probably someone in their 20s and 30s, not married, not with kids, probably suits them more, that kind of consideration, I think.
Agreed, but I do think also on the other side, and like I've met people who do have, should say, families that by doing this lifestyle they're able to, should say, take more holidays, maybe long weekends somewhere, go away that wouldn't normally be possible. Maybe like even like, hey, I'm going to go on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and take the laptop with me because I can keep working, enjoy it. And like also we were both in Barcelona, not at the same time, but it was nice to be able to go to another country, do a little bit of work, and then hey, like I'm going to do a 6-hour day, not a normal 8 or like 13 sometimes when we're crazy. But the idea is I can now go enjoy the city, but like just work in the morning and then have the evening or the afternoon off. So I love that.
Well, I'm very impressed that you managed to do 6 hours work in a day whilst in Barcelona. It's very impressive because it's easy to just want to get outside. So well done, Tom. I think my record was 2 hours. So well done, mate.
Unfortunately, I've been traveling for 5 years, so I kind of understand the need to get work done. So it's very important. So one of the reasons why obviously I brought you on the call, and obviously thank you so much for your time, is the fact that one thing I really love about you and what you talk about or share, should we say, on social media, especially around Twitter, which is where you're, should we say, sharing a lot, is the fact that you give monthly updates. And the one thing which I did see most recently was your October results. Now, I absolutely love this. And the reason why I love this, and I just wanted to share to everyone, is because a lot of on social media, we see highlight reels. We see how amazing everything's going. And you know what? You don't do that. You share what it is exactly. And not only just like, hey, here's my revenue, you actually show your profitability on it and even your ROI, which I absolutely love. So you have targets and you show the results. And even when you underachieve, you don't sugarcoat it. You kind of say, here's what happened and here's what I'm going to do. So if everyone's never seen your results, is there any chance you can just like tell us a little bit about like why you do it, and then also like tell us about your October results for last month?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult sometimes because like you and like everybody else, if you feel like you're underachieving something, it gets to you. So to actually share that with everybody when you feel like you've underachieved and you've failed, and then you're sharing it with everybody else to see, it's very easy that you open yourself up then to more criticism. So you got to be prepared to take it. But I, as you know, I run a reselling group and I offer wholesale mentoring as well. Like if I'm going to offer services that help other people do these things, I think I need to be fully transparent. I need to show everybody what I'm doing at all times. If people are going to buy into a service I'm offering, then they need to understand what I'm actually doing. Otherwise, I'm just, what am I? Am I a fraud? I don't know. Guess I am if I don't share the results. So you can't only share the good times, you've got to share the bad times. It's got to be a proper representation of who you are, in my opinion. So what I normally do is I set myself a monthly target, Tom, based on what my yearly target is. Break it down and set myself a monthly target, monthly ROI figure. Look, ROI becomes less and less important as you scale. It's about physical profit, but still, it's good to set a target so at least you're not a busy fool. If I hit those figures, I share what the figures were with the profit, with the ROI. If I don't hit those figures, I share what the figures are. And if I've underperformed, I'll explain why I think I've underperformed. And sometimes things look on screenshots like it's been a bad month. My October, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was about 100 20 grand turnover with 10 or 11 grand profit. That's including prep fees and Amazon fees. But the ROI was only about 16%. That raises a few eyebrows for people because they think, oh, it's not worth getting out of bed for. It's not worth the effort you got to put in. But there's two things to pick up on that. Number one, the actual amount of time I physically need to spend working on this business every single day is decreasing every single week as I outsource tasks. So I said about the sourcing virtual assistant who looks after most of the suppliers. I've recently brought in an admin VA who helps out the other businesses that I run, but they also help out a lot of tasks for the Amazon business. So they actually take off a lot of admin from me. Lots of things that just take time and don't really make money. So I could go 2 days without doing anything on the Amazon business, and then the next day I might spend 9 or 10 hours on it. But it doesn't, 16% is great for me. 10 grand profit's great for me for a business that I don't have to slog myself to death doing. And I've outsourced most of it. Some days I don't leave the house, which is a bit bad, but figures on a screen do not always give you the full story. And the second reason is why I think 16% isn't that bad sometimes. What you don't see from those sales is I'm actually just releasing cash all the time, and I want cash. Cash is king, as they say. We're deep into November recording this, and I need cash in order to buy more and more stock for December. I've got lots and lots of items that were bad online arbitrage buys back in the day that I've finally bit the bullet and cashed in on them. So they massively bring ROI down. That 16% is not a fair reflection of my whole business operations. That's a reflection of a 31-day period where you've taken huge losses, some huge wins, and it's balanced out around 16%. So in my eyes, it's been a good month. I put a big red cross saying I've not hit my target, but I've released lots of stock that could sit around for another year, and I've got money to now buy better deals with. So just take everything with a pinch of salt, I think, with things you see on Twitter. Everybody's results. Something that looks bad to you might be really good to them. Something that looks really good to you might not be so good to them. So yeah, just be open-minded about things, I think, which is, the best way to be.
Yeah, I agree. I think, from my side and anyone watching, thank you so much for sharing. And I think also, from my own reflection and my own journey, what I've seen is that there are times when we focus on growing the revenue, and there's times when we focus on clearing down stock, and there's times when maybe we focus on maximizing profitability. And all these are snapshots in time. They don't show the whole business picture. And it might be the case, my God, I look at my business sometimes, I'm like, okay, look, my ROI isn't that great. Yeah, we've made 10 grand profit. I'm like, I have generally worked 2 hours a week. I'm like, when you work it out per hour worked, you're like, the ROI is, the revenue or profit per hour worked is incredible. And then you get other people who are saying, it's a thing, and actually, if you work out your per hour worked, it's a completely different equation. And also sometimes what we're trying to do, and I've done it in my business, is whereby we're trying to change our business slightly. So it might be the case that we're trying to move from one of good profitability to steady revenue to now drive the revenue, but we have to sacrifice profitability for a short term to just get our team used to buying enough, because they're a bit scared to spend more than £1,000 on a product. We now need to spend 5. And it's really interesting. And what's really interesting is that, one thing I really love about you and your journey and what you're doing is the fact that you talk about that and you put that big red X and you say where it is. But I think you're so right. You're talking about I love how you say and by the way, I talk about this in our own Amazon course, Seller Academy. I talk about the big goal. I talk about break it down into targets monthly and then action that. And you're doing that. And obviously you're saying, this month I've achieved it, this month I haven't. But by having that check-in, you're able to learn what's worked and also what's not. And I think also as well, it's amazing to be transparent. And I really value you because, yes, you are selling, information courses, you've got your community, but also you're transparent with it. People know what they're going to get. You're not saying, I will make you a millionaire. You're actually like, no, this is my results, this is where I'm at, and I'm going to teach you this sustainable method of doing it. Not, I've sold some dangerous goods or something which is a one-time wonder and you can't repeat this. You're building a business for the long term, and I love that. And a business that you can pack up and go travel to Barcelona whenever you want. So thank you for your honesty, and thank you for the clarity and giving people that chance to see into your business and see the stats and also the profitability and ROI. So thank you so much.
No worries. It's also worth considering is that those snapshots you see, that most of them don't include all business expenses. So someone who's doing 25% ROI, their bottom line when they take off staffing expenses and other things that they have may be a lot lower than somebody who's doing 15% ROI without many staff expenses. So just things to consider when you see all these screenshots. It's literally just a snapshot in time. It's not the full story, but transparency is good in my opinion.
And also as well, it's about you being honest with yourself. Like at the end of the day, if someone wants to say, like, it doesn't really matter. If you're happy with your business, fantastic. And I think, congratulations, well done to you, and congratulations for what you've achieved, being transparent and honest with yourself. So fantastic. So question for you, tell me about the future. You've done 30,000 to 120,000 roughly, you're about to hit the million. Where are we going to be in 1 year's time? Tell me about that.
Oh, that is a question. I think a big thing for me is the transition from reseller to retailer. It's a big thing. It's something I keep banging on about, and people are probably annoyed about me for saying it. But I think if you get to a certain point and you're thinking, if you're just in the UK and you're doing 100k plus and you're doing online arbitrage, unless you move to another marketplace, it's going to be really difficult for you to scale that to 200 grand, 300 grand, 400 grand in the UK alone. I'm talking monthly amounts, because it's just not the market big enough, and buying from the suppliers, there's not enough suppliers who you can buy from, in my opinion. Looking at the wholesale model, which I do, the big thing, we call it wholesale, but let's be honest, you're just becoming a retailer. It's what you are. The big thing about it is actually getting yourself a professional mindset. I am a retailer now. I'm not just someone who's flipping hot tubs, chimeneas and printers on Amazon. I'm a bona fide retailer who at the minute sells on Amazon. So looking beyond that, you need to start thinking about, okay, how do I actually build a future for this retail business? Do I go and get a physical store? Probably not the most attractive thing to do in this day and age. So you're going to want an online presence. So looking for getting a website that is actually functioning and getting traffic to it, I think is crucial to actually building yourself as a retailer. So that's what I'm going to be doing, Tom. So the next year is that website is running. I have my own website. It has a few sales trickling through to it, but I'm building a website where it's actually my own marketing and my own platform, and what I sell on there doesn't have the high fees that Amazon has. It will work sort of alongside Amazon for quite a long time, using multi-channel fulfillment, where Amazon stock will get shipped to the customers if they order it through the website. But long-term plan will be to just have that website, working with its own set of suppliers who maybe don't want you to sell on Amazon, and actually fulfilling them just through the website and not on Amazon as well. So yeah, that's the plan with wholesale and suppliers in the UK, but there's no doubt that Germany needs looking at. I do EFN, and to be honest, I'm very surprised how well Germany sells via EFN. It's probably 10 grand a month just on Germany EFN, which some people will be really happy with just in the UK. So actually getting a Germany registered business, or VAT registered in Germany as well, would make sense. I've got a German surname, so that helps as well with suppliers. And then there's the US on the horizon somewhere, which is a no-brainer for me as well. If I build strong relationships with these global brands that I'm currently having accounts open with, there's no reason why I can't just say, oh, hey guys, I'm spending 20 grand for you a month here in the UK. Can I open a US account as well? And why wouldn't they? If we've got a good relationship. So yeah, expansion, doing the wholesale model will be the plan for next year. And beyond that, who knows?
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. If anyone wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do it?
Mainly on Twitter, Tom. If you want to get in contact with me, it's going to be on Twitter. So at Gravy, so GRAVYFI, so Gravy FI. I run a reselling group called the Gravy Train. So if you want to check that out, you can, at the Gravy Train UK. And that's a capped numbers community. I don't want to scale it, really. I'm happy with it at 150 to 200 members. I want to help people progress through arbitrage into wholesale, or if they want to go to private label, fine. I don't know anything about private label, but I want people to grow businesses, Tom, and take it from side hustle to business. And I run that group to help people do it.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Well, I'll drop all the links down below, so if anyone's interested in that, do check that out. But I just want to say, Chris, from myself and everyone watching, thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much for sharing everything that you do also on Twitter as well. So if anyone's interested, do follow him, do have a look. I'll drop the links down below. But for myself and everyone else, Chris, thank you so much for your time and sharing today.
Thank you, Tom. Really enjoyed it. Nice to speak to you after watching all your YouTube videos for years. So cheers, mate.